Well, hello. All right. I'm going to try and make some music and fail miserably at it. So, yeah, might try and make a track. And it's all kind of centered around this idea of kind of a delayed effect on a clap. So there's our clap. So what I want to do is start with, so I'm going to set up a stutter. What am I doing wrong? Oh, gain. Let's go slower here. So let me put in a kick drum so I can hear where the beginning of this phrase is. Okay, so what I want in this clap is like some sort of echo effect. So I'm stuttering it, but instead of an ID function, which will just copy it, I want to do something like add some reverb, maybe put in a filter. So let's add a low pass filter at 2000 hertz. And the other thing I want to do is put it in a different orbit. And I don't know if I really need, no, I don't need to do that. Let's add some room on it. Yeah, sounds better. Let's increase the room size. Not sure about that clap sample. Let's try a different sample. Yeah, there we go. All right, so, all right, well, that was easy. I wonder if we could also add in some delay. So by default, if we make delay 0, and then let's add some delay too. Let's set the delay time. That shorter. Yeah. And maybe we'll randomly pan it every time. So we'll do our shortcut function shrand. That's a shortcut function I use to just generate a random value, and then this number shifts over that number of cycles so that I get a more true random value. You know what's interesting is that the delay does not get the low pass filter. If you listen closely, the delay has a higher frequency range in it, and the first note, that stutter, does not. Interesting. So another way we can get around this, because I kind of want that delayed effect, but instead of delay, I'm just going to stutter it more times. So like 8 times. And then, no, that's not going to work either. It's like I want to stutter within the stutter. You know what? We're going to try that. Is this even going to work? Can you do that? A stutter within a stutter? No way. That's not going to work. What if we do a stut with 2? Does this work? It does. Did you hear that? Ha! Okay. This is sweet. So what happens is the sample plays, then the next note happens. It's an 1/8 of a cycle times 3. So 3/8 of a cycle later, this stuff inside the parentheses happens, which is another stutter. I've never done this before, and this is amazing. Okay, so let's do like a gain thing here. Oh. I've never tried this. This is sweet. Okay, so now on every stutter, let's maybe add the low pass filter. So let's put a low pass filter of 10,000 hertz, and then every stutter, it's going to be decreased by 10%. Yeah, there we go. Maybe add a... Okay, so it's not, I think we need to set the low pass filter 10,000 and then also degrade it. Let's see if this does it. So it's not quite working. So I don't think my low pass filter is changing much. Let's do a subtract maybe. It's not having an effect. Do just the filter. No, I've got an error. So what is wrong here? So if I, oh, that's multiplying by 900. That's terrible. There we go. All right, that is satisfying. Okay. All right, the next thing I want to do is maybe randomize the speed of the stutter. So we'll have it by default, it'll be a 1/16 of a cycle. And then we'll shift this around so that it's, so I've got a helper function called shift, which will move over by a certain number of cycles. And then we'll do, So yeah, so what is happening here is I've got a lot of stuff going on right now. So in the last argument of the stut with, so everything here, this LPF and gain, what I'm doing is I'm multiplying my main LPF value, the low pass filter value. I'm multiplying it by 0.7 on every stuttered value. So I've got 20 stuttered values, and it's multiplying each one by 0.7 on every note. So on the first stuttered value, it would be 7,000 hertz, and then the next stuttered note would be 7,000 times 0.7, and so on. So every stutter gets filtered more and more. Same thing with the gain; it gets a little quieter by 90%. All right, so I am randomly assigning the stutter length, so the time between stuttered notes. And you know what? Every time it stutters, I betcha. Every time it stutters, I think it's gonna pick a new value. So we wanna sample and hold the choice for 1 cycle. Maybe. Or just have it be random. That's cool too. So I'm going to put these in some variables so that this is easier to read. So we'll say time between stutters equals, and then we're going to put this in a nice little variable here so that we don't have to think about this again. Time between stutters. Eval that. And I'm going to put this in a do block. I've got a video tutorial on do blocks out on YouTube. But what they do is it lets you evaluate multiple lines at once that are kind of for different purposes. So I can do a let variable assignment, and then I can also execute a pattern at the same time. And if I change the let and evaluate it, it will evaluate the pattern with it at the same time. Okay, and then stutter effect. Let's put this in a variable too. You don't have to do it this way, but it's just nice code organization, I guess. All right. I'm also going to do something with changing when the first stutter starts. So initial time equals. Like so, and then I want to randomize this. We'll do shift, choose 5. Yeah. Do sometimes rev. Nah. Do every 3 rev. Okay. So I'm spending a ton of time just developing this snare thing, but that's kind of how I like to do things. Just kind of get a really cool part going. And this is not really like how I would perform this live or something. This is purely just just composing kind of mindset, just figuring something out. And then if you want to perform with this or something, you could always save this for later. All right. cool. So let's get another element. Let's put this in a stack, because that's another thing I like to do. Stacks are cool. And oh, someone earlier had a question on using a transition. Let's see. No. All right. We'll work in a transition later. I want to get a second element in here into the stack. So right now I've got my clap, and let's get some sort of a kick drum pattern or something going. Let's try this one maybe. Yeah, that'll work. All right, so I'm using cut here because it's a bass drum with a long decay on it. And without the cut, it's probably not too bad, but the samples would bleed into each other. Yeah, it's a little muddy if you listen closely. So let's cut that. Take the bleed out. Okay, so I want to do a couple things here. So I want to randomly remove some notes. So we're going to do degrade by, let's say 0.2. Maybe 0.3. And then I want to have like a double note attack or fire off. So sometimes I want, I've got a shortcut for this, but I'm going to do it the long way first. So if I do stut width 2, 0, 16th of a cycle, and then ID. So now every note fires twice at a 16th of a cycle later. But I only want that to happen sometimes. So we'll say 40% of the time it'll do it. But I've got a shortcut. If I look in my functions folder, I've got a shortcut called 1, which already does, maybe it's 1 prime. No, it's just 1. Really interesting. Okay, I didn't, remembering what my functions do. Okay, so instead I can do sometimes by and then 1. So 1 will just play another note. I should probably rename this function 2. Let's add a little bit of bite to this thing with some shape. I wonder if I've got another sample in this folder. That might work. Ooh, there we go. I like that one. All right, let's bring that clap back. Yeah, okay. So I'm thinking now I want more variation with this kick drum pattern. So I've got 1 prime, which will rarely do the stutter, and I've got 1 double prime, which sometimes does it. Okay, so I don't know what I'm trying to do here. So let's do sometimes by 0.2. Stut with, you know, I think I've got another function called roll, which does this. I don't know where I got the name for it. Roll. Yeah, okay. I've got roll and roll prime, which will stutter it at So 1 will stutter it at a 16th of a cycle, and then here we've got roll prime. And we've got to shift this so that the two sometimes by's don't collide. Actually, we'll do that here too. All right, that's pretty cool. I'm going to vary the speed of this kick drum up too. So we'll do speed range 0.9 to 1, shrand, random number. Let's change that range a little bit. Okay, so now every kick drum will have a slightly different pitch. I think I want to put some shape on that clap too. Some more bite. If we pitch that down. I'm very happy with this so far. Okay, okay, more variation. Let's reverse the speed of the clap every 7 cycles. We'll do speed -1. Multiply the speed by -1. All right. All right. What's next? I'm thinking either a little bit of percussion or to start to get some melodic content in here. Yeah. Let's. I'm honestly really surprised how cool this is turning out. This is just really fun to listen to. Let's not randomly, let's say every 6, we'll reverse the kick drum too. I don't think that has much of an effect because the kick drum sample is so long that when it starts playing at the tail, the next kick drum starts, and since I'm using cut, it gets cut off. So you know what? We're not gonna bother with that. My nice and neat code formatting makes this code really long, but you just have to deal with that. All right, so let's see, what other samples do we have here? We could do a spike. Or we could even use like a vocal sample as some percussion maybe. Yeah, you know what? I've got a vocal sample.
Any clues?
Yeah, there we go.
Any clues? Any clues?
Anybody know what movie that's from? So let's do clues times 16, and then we're going to randomize the start point. So we'll do begin, shrand, random number. Oh, hold on. All right, so let's take this out, and we're going to develop this separately. So that sounds terrible. Well, not terrible, but okay. So the problem is that the sounds it's not bleeding into each other, but there's not a lot of definition of each hit of the sample. So I'm going to add a release of 1/10 of a second. There we go. What if we pitch it up? I don't know. What's this going to sound like? Let's put this in. So let's develop this more. I'm going to randomize the panning. And okay. So then I've got speed 2, and I'm going to superimpose a different speed. So we'll multiply the speed by 1.1. And then I also want a different pan for the superimpose too. So we'll do pan shran and then a different number. What did I screw up? I need another parentheses. Oh, this is not going to work. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm superimposing another sample on top of the original, but I'm cutting it. So let's get rid of the cut. So cut will only play 1. If you try and play 2, cut will only allow 1 to be played. So let's get rid of the cut. Yeah, there we go. And let's take that pattern and we'll move it up here. And see what this sounds like. So I also have a random release time from 0.05 of a second to 0.2. All right, so someone on the Lurk forum asked how you use the clutch in transition. So let's say I had, I've got this whole pattern, and let's say I wanted to transition it to a different pattern that uses, I don't know, I'm going to keep it simple. So I'm just going to copy this whole, you know what, I'm going to move these lets out to make this next demonstration a little easier to follow. Okay, so got my variables up there and my regular pattern here. So I'm going to completely copy this big stack of stuff. And I'm going to I want to transition to this. Oops. The second pattern. But in the second pattern, I'm going to change the samples. So I'm just going to make some other, I've got some other samples that might work here. So let's do, I don't know, clues Let's see what this sounds like. I have no idea what this is going to sound like. No, that's not CPS1. I'm missing a was it blue clap? That's what I want. Blue clap. Okay, so I've got my second pattern that has kind of some similar samples, but they're different. Here's the first. Here's the second. So what if I wanted to transition more gracefully between the two instead of having I'm actually gonna have more of a Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around here. I'm going to have a more drastic pattern that I want to change to, so it's more obvious that something weird's going on. So we'll do Perry times 4, and then, I don't know, this is going to sound... Okay, so that's the second pattern. Here's the first one. So if I want to transition to the second pattern, but if I want it to be a more gradual transition, so TidalCycles has some transition functions, and they're not documented super well yet. So let's go to transition. So go to TidalCycles.org. I'm just going to search for transition. Yeah, it's this. There's some stuff in the tutorial. There's also this interaction page. So if we go to interaction, there's a little spot here that talks about transitions. There's a crossfade transition, which will kind of work, but it doesn't really tell you many more details about how to control that. There's also in the tutorial transitions between patterns. So there's also some explanation here, this X fade in. So let's try that. So what you do is, if you want to transition D1, you need to do X fade, and then you give it a number. But I'm going to do X fade in, and then you give it the number of the thing you're transitioning. So it's D1, so I'm going to transition X fade 1. And then if I want it to be over 4 cycles, I would type 4. Or if 8 cycles, I would do 8. Or 5 cycles, I do 5. So let's see what this does. And I'll start the crossfade. So that works pretty well. It just literally just crossfades between two patterns. I'm a fan of clutch and the clutch in, which will morph between the two patterns. Let's see what that sounds like. So this is the first pattern, then the second pattern. So it gradually starts to play patterns sounds from the second pattern over. It starts a little bit, and then as the 5 cycles go on, then eventually it plays 100% of the second pattern. So I just wanted to illustrate that quick. Somebody had a question about that. I'm not a big fan of the sounds in here that I picked. I just picked some quick ones. Let's go back to the first pattern and see if we can develop that some more. I think I'll go for another 10 or 15 minutes here. right, so the next thing I want to try is an idea that I've been playing with in a few of the past videos, which is to superimpose like an effects send sort of thing. So superimpose will copy everything you're doing, but apply a function to it. So, or many functions to it. So anything inside of this parentheses it will do stuff to. I can't talk today. I'm going to bring my do block back. Do. Okay. So we'll do, we'll say super stuff equals ID, which means do nothing. Super stuff. So what I can do instead is, let's say I want to, I'm going to iterate it so it'll kind of throw the pattern off a little bit by 1/16 of a cycle. Maybe speed it up by 1.1. My syntax correct. Okay, so it's just creating a mess right now because I'm literally just duplicating the sound, but I'm offsetting it by some tempo. But let's also set a low pass filter to some really low value maybe, and then reduce the gain by 90% or 10%. Hear much there. Maybe I'll put a bandpass filter on this. So I put a low pass filter on it, but I think it really made things muddy. So let's just put a band pass filter on and we'll put it up in a higher range of frequencies. I'm not sure how I feel about this because it's really making things pretty dense. So if we take this out, we'll put it back. What if I just put that on the clap, maybe? Maybe. Let's go try a high pass filter instead of a band pass. Yeah, I don't know. That might be a little too dense, but you know what? I could also do like every, when mod 6/4, then it's only going to fire off every 5th and 6th cycle, so it'll keep it clean otherwise. Or I could do 6/3, so just off every 3 cycles. If this superimposes on, every 3 cycles it's off. All right. I think I'll keep this. This is pretty cool. It might still need a melodic element of some sort, but let's see. Do I have anything? Oh, let's see. Do I have any good melodic stuff? I do, sort of. I'm thinking something that has like a long reverb tail too. I'm already using some reverb on... Well, I think I'm only using the reverb on this stuttered business on orbit 1. So if I put reverb on orbit 0, if I keep this whole stack on orbit 0, otherwise, I might be able to use some reverb there. So let's do... Gotta find a good sample here. Oh yeah, def do, maybe, or def B. Let's try def do. Def do's already got some reverb baked into it. Yeah, it's good. So def do already has reverb baked into the sample. Let me bring it out here, so you can hear it. Oops, dang it. Code editor has failed me again. Come on, there we go. So it already has some reverb baked in, but if we add some reverb, so I'll put this on orbit 1 or orbit 0 and add some reverb. And make it a big, yeah, so I'm just adding reverb on reverb. Makes it a little bit bigger. Copy all of that up to the orbit. All right, and I've got a few samples in def do. There's a couple in there. I don't remember what the other one is. So let's say, rarely stut with 2. 125 times 3, and then we'll change the sample to the next one in the folder, N1. this percussion bit. I need that shift in there. Well, if you like the IDM, I think we found something. Okay, so, all right, as far as a track is concerned, this is a good point, like I don't know, this is like 75%. I think you could just, if you were to, the way I would record this is maybe start by muting most of this and just playing a portion of it and then introduce parts as the track progresses, maybe disable some of the variation and then introduce it to be more complex as the track goes on. It'd be kind of nice to have like a part B where there's some new sounds too. This SS sample, and I think I named it SS so it's like a it'd be like a KSS then, wouldn't it? So the last thing I'm gonna try is maybe put some of my usual improv stuff on top of the stack, some of my glitchier stuff, see what happens. Pushing things a little too far here. Sorry about that. All right. Yeah, so I think I'll keep this. So I think I'll end it right there. So hopefully you enjoyed watching, and maybe you'll see this on a release someday or something. Yeah, I don't know. Or it'll just have been a fun streaming track. Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the future.